Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's our match of the day, Wolves versus Rogues, about to begin. I can't wait for this game to get started. Bibu versus Spoit. Oh, man. Goosebumps just thinking about it. Hello, I'm Austin Medic, your host. With me are Anne and Fresh, and we'll have a chat about our two squads, starting off with Rogue, a team that has really gone above and beyond. They kept up their run after their victory in Berlin, and they're looking for the next major spot.
Yep, indeed. They won their last game against Outsiders on Monday. It was a little closer than expected, but still some good points for them. And what they specifically did well in that game was use the space well and try to push from a lot of different sides. We talked about that in the pre-show with a bit of the Telestrator segment, but you'll see that many of these rounds actually come down to a multi-site push. Not necessarily a one-dimensional push. They won't throw bodies at you, and that's really been working well for them. They struggled a little bit with retakes last game against Outsiders. The ideas were there, but the executions weren't the greatest. Retaking the entire top four, but they couldn't win against a perfect passiveness from Outsiders. Looking at the players, though, we will see that Kryde and Spoy are really topping this team when it comes to KD, entry, and cost. But of course, they have that very solid backline with Deepak and Leon.
I really would love to see a full round from Deepak's.
Use your words.
I just really want to see it. Really.
Yeah.
Because what people don't realize, and I'm so surprised nobody has banned Echo away from Deepak yet in this stage. It happened a little bit in Berlin, but not as much as it should have. Because Deepak has this such dynamic information that he can drone his front line with Echo drones. The amount of Valk bans we see against Rogue, which is obviously, Valk is obviously good, but it's very static information. You put it in an area, can get droned out and shot. Deepak drones? Yeah, they're called Deepak drones. Deepak drones, Echo drones, he can drive them wherever he wants, feed his teammates information, and that front line just goes and gets all the kills. It works so well.
To be fair, if they don't have the Echo, they will do the same with the Mozzie, for example. We've seen them get the same kind of information with the Mozzie, technically droning in their roamers.
But now you got Dokkaebi with her buff in the mixed. If she survives, maybe Rogue will be able to ban it. I mean, there's ways for both of these teams to use and abuse the operator themselves. But then if you're Wolves, you also have to think about Nook on the other side. Oh, there's so many variables that I can't wait to see. Something's got to slip through. And my question to myself, hello Milosh, is this the time for 3 bans per team?
Ooh. Just
putting it out there. Anyways, moving on to Wolves as Rogue's opponents. They've also been incredible this stage. They have been, even if you're looking at stage 2, Jack, can they keep it up and hold number 1 position?
I think it's going to be a big test today, but what I will say for Wolves is that they've also got this kind of team play. We've talked about Rogue team play and did the whole Telestrator on Rogue's team play. Now, you could very easily find a Wolves round on exactly the same site, and they will play it in almost the same way. Multi-dimensional approaches, all at once, the team play that's given us. One slight twinge, one slight difference between Wolves and Rogue is that Mowgli has a lot of freedom to do what he wants on the entry, and then Wolves are used to playing 4v5s. I would say that's probably the only difference. But they're so impressive. Like, the way that they can manufacture 4v5s, 3v5s, their advantages, they can be stuck in a player can be in a crossfire, 1v2 crossfire, and then suddenly, within 5 seconds, Wolves has then made that fight not a 1v2, but a 3v2. And that's what's really good about Wolves. That's why I really like watching them, because they understand the FPS element of this game spectacularly well.
Exactly. Those 1v1s, turning them into 2v1s as a team is something that they excel in, and they have great communication. They play off of each other's gunfire, and that's really a sign that the communication is definitely there. If you look at the player specifically, P4, he maybe had a little bit of a slower start off the stage, but he's been really influential in those final 2 games, specifically the last one where he walked in from other sides, killed players that were not even looking at them, but that is something that Wolves have been so good with as well. Looking for those opportunities, seeking for those opportunities, reading the situation very well, and then adapting to that.
So what will be our map for this series? With 2 teams that are so close, and with how they're both so effective on attack especially, we're going to get Villa. Okay. That's a bit of a surprise. Wolves ban away Theme Park and take us to Villa Tuscany for it, and it's attacking starting side as Rogues opted for the defense. Now, in the past, we would say Villa, hyper-defensive map. Things have changed. Both teams are attacker-sided, I guess. They're more powerful on it. So how do you see this going, Fresh?
I think the ban's a curious phase, the way that Rogue and Wolves ban it. Wolves have banned it quite aggressive towards Rogue's best map, whereas Rogue have kind of just got away with getting rid of their worst maps. You know, Chalet Clubhouse don't really work too well for Rogue. So I think it was curious between Female Villa because it's not a map that you would have had these two playing on 6 months ago. I think Rogue starting defense as well. They're the best defensive team in the league. They're just by far and away the best defensive team in the league. They're very comfortable there. Not saying they're a bad attacking team, but you know they're the best defensive team. Get in front, I think, is the mantra for them.
But then they're up against the best attacking team in the
There we
league
go.
as well. So Wolves could definitely shake some things
So the
up
first 6
on
rounds are
the
going to be
attack.
incredible. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, this entire game is going to be incredible,
Yeah.
but there's definitely going to be something going down in those first 6 rounds. If you look at the past 4 months, I think this used to be Rogue's a little bit of a, insta-ban.
Yeah, they brought it out for Berlin, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And now they're playing it a little bit more. They've won at the stage again as well against TT9. Kind of expected if you look at that. Wolves haven't really played it yet this stage, though.
Okay, so Villa, big surprise, and it's Rogue versus Wolves, the top 2 teams in the region. BDS is going to snake in right behind or just jumped above them, but that all depends on this game. Big test for Wolves and also for Rogue to see their preferred sides. The map is going to be a big test. I really cannot wait for it. Fresh Ann, thank you so much. Toss it to our casters. It's happening.
Well, thank you very much, Milos. Yes, it is here for the game of the day, maybe the game of the split, and that's why we're super excited. These are 2 teams that we both want to see do big bits fresh at a major.
What did he do?
He dropped his tablet.
How dare he?
Oh, just the
Just
pen.
the pen, okay, well.
Do you want to hit my Milos impression?
Yes, please.
Ah, Sunny Tuscany. He says it every time we come to Villa.
This Sunny Tuscany.
Sunny Tuscany.
It definitely is. Yeah. The clock tower you see on the back of the map is Etsy Auditor on top of it. Can't see it from here. As you heard,
Nice.
full name.
Requiesce de pace. That's a different.
That's a different one.
Italian. Okay. Listen, it's
Okay,
the game
well,
of the
I
day,
don't know.
Milos. We can't be distracted by your impressions of Italian plumbers. Rogue Band Dockerby. We do not get the stretch in New Dockerby. We do not get the taste of what they can bring here yet. It's sort of been an up and down of whether we'd truly get the face of. Nook is gone as well. That's, again, no surprise. No Osiban.
Quickly want to redo the
Crying's getting to the bottom of this.
Oh, why? Question mark.
Oh, Crying has a cool new hat.
Does he? Oh, he does. It's not quite a top hat that we had in APAC. Kanto's giving them some information.
Well,
that's
if we do not get Osa 100% of these attack rounds, somebody is lying.
Yes. This first starts with Wolves, though.
I have 6 impact. Good luck.
For those of you wondering, the banter between the 2 teams have already started in the all chat. Yeah, let's see. Is there an Osa? Don't see the Osa yet. Do you? Oh,
It might be a 6th pick.
might be a repick. Yeah.
No, it's that sort of play around each other. 2 teams, they're very familiar. I think this is 2 teams that, regardless of the result today, expect to see each other at the major. They've been sort of top of the boards for a long time.
Yeah.
BDS had a bit of a dip, but they came back and are currently sitting in that top spot. Whoever wins this game is likely to find themselves in it, depending on how the wind goes out. But look at that. Look at those statistics.
Yeah. Neither of the teams can qualify themselves anymore today. That was the case beforehand. Rogue could have done it, but results did not go their way. And that means the best they can do is a 99.8% chance of qualifying for the major. And again, it is going to be down on like 16 points, so nothing really to worry about. More even, so they should be good. But it could also still, you know, go down south. We're starting off with Trophy and Statuary as the first site. Otherwise, you would often see AVGs. This might be Rogue wanting to throw a bit of a curveball here, trying to, you know, catch them off guard or disturb the rhythm a little bit that usually comes with Villa.
Okay. We had a lot of expectations towards the first half of this game. The best defending team against the best attacking team on a map that can be a little bit spicy to try and drive themselves as a thoroughfare through a lot of drones, rolling their way from study. There's a bit of attention being paid back here. Cryan has the ability to try and Ramadash his way out of there if it gets a little bit too hot, and it's about to get a little bit too hot. The first drone, there's the watch on the opposite side. Study door, and it's Spoit in that position. The grenade goes through. So does Mowgli, but Spoit's able to get the catch on their backup. P4 is caught out. They're going to keep pushing forward into it. Leans into the fight. Cryan gets one before getting himself downed in the engagement. Spoit gets a double for himself. Kanto, he wants to risk the pickup here. The audio might come through, but with Spoit still watching the door, it's not something Shinku can just try and throw himself into. All of this bloodshed in a single room on the opposite side of the map. One more off the board. Rise, all that is left within about 15 seconds.
There's not much you can do here. There's definitely a lot of time, but not a lot to play with here. Diffuser is down, needs to be recovered, and you see that the remaining Rogue players are all starting to fall back. They're not having any of it. They want to keep Rise guessing, and as he picks up that diffuser, he slowly makes his way over towards the site. Soon starts knocking. Still some players downstairs from Rogue as well. They're keeping themselves with some width. Not all stacking themselves up in the site. What all Rise would have to do is just go from angle to angle. Walks over a bit of verticality here. No one underneath as we speak, and usually these rounds will not be going away with Rise, but you never know. As he's struggling to find the first.
Yeah, Rogue aren't going to hand anything to him. It's a 5 versus 1. They've seen things fall away. They've sort of held positions and angles. They're ready to strike from underneath. They got themselves positioned at the bottom of the stair set. There's more C4s in pocket, but you don't massively need the lead in too much. And you know, still with Pocket's utility at this point, it's more just seeing if you can get anybody on the way out the door. There's a sledgehammer, or a sledgehammer shotgun, even, opening up. Holes, I know the difference. Around towards the default plant spot.
Tried to use a grenade to check if someone was out there. Not the case. Now he gets into the gunfights. He's a full HP, but it's a flawless round from Rogue. As they looked them all off, as they managed to, or at least tried to, enter the study.
Oh, there's a GIF, Bartosz.
That's a GIF. A Leon GIF.
It was half the team.
Oh, sorry, Leon caught my eye in that moment.
Cryan and Spoit were both there. There is a lot of hand gestures that are often thrown up by both these teams during rounds. I want creativity today.
I want it as well, yes. I agree.
We usually have airplanes and running from Wolves.
A little bit of dancing as well every now and then.
Yeah, a little tiki dance.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they
Very
can.
moving.
The dock is in.
Is it a P90 though? Leon Gids, are you making Fresh proud?
Would Leon want to make Fresh proud?
I don't know. That's between them. But I can at least pose the question.
Chat, what do you think?
We're still waiting.
P90?
He's still running around with a bailiff, just opening up some verticalities.
No T.
Still opening up. I think he's going to use every single bit of ammo.
The rest of the
Just
setup
waiting.
is happening. Come on. Oh, Leon, you're holding us all at bay.
You could just show us if you're using the P90 to the MP5.
No, he can't.
5 seconds left.
We'll have to wait.
He's just going to play with a bailiff the entire
We'll have to
round.
wait. Yeah, he's a bailiff main.
All he needs is 10 shots.
All he
Doesn't
needs.
need anything else
I
than
mean,
that.
there's 5 players against him. One of them.
Just hit it.
Max just hid the overlay for a second so we can see. One of them is playing the Blitz, Rise. Am I going to see if he can try and muscle his way through the guns? The previous round was well put together by Rogue. They sort of had a lot of a spread fire. It's not the P90.
It's an MP5. He has one
Sorry
bullet
to
left
say.
in the bailiff as well.
1 kill.
All you need.
1 bullet, 1 kill.
But it is going to be the AVGs now, and that is usually the first sign as B4 takes out Spoy. That is going to be a very welcome kill coming out for Wolves. It's an opening they needed, but Kanto responds, finds Bibu. I believe that was through a window. Brings it back to that 4-4. Rise playing on the Blitz, though. You mentioned it before. That is going to be the interesting one. How are they going to be able to put that pace behind that shield?
Yeah, that sort of locked and loaded round. They're trying to find just somewhere they can shove him in. The cross angles, as I said before, were a big drive from the previous hold here of Rogue. Wolves couldn't quite find the right snap through, and they don't want to make that same mistake. A Rogue player unchecked is a likely one that's going to be shooting you in the side of the face if you try and enter their building. Steady clear, steady clarity. They're, again, being a lot more thorough. And the fight is going to start to push its way up these main magical stairs. The steady run of the Flores. First the Barbs, second the ADS, then the World.
think that's just to give Rise an opportunity to quickly run through, get rid of that bot wire so he can actually start pushing up the main stairs momentarily from now. So be careful for a bit of the verticality that comes through. Smoke canister to lock him off as well. They are aware of him coming through and instantly falling back. They're not sticking around. They want to make sure that they're not getting up close enough where Rise can just quickly press that knife button and go for the instant injure.
That's it, very quickly got himself in as you'd called. He made sure he could move right behind it, take the territory, and suddenly try and make it work for them. They still have a bit of a backline here, but the fight has started where there was previously a massacre. This time, not quite the same luck. The bulletproof on the back is going to give them an eye, and Leon gets the swing onto the door. Mowgli goes down as soon as they try and enter. Reverse on the shield there. And a shield was just there a second ago, but suddenly, now with one body less, once again, the man disadvantage, it's going to be something that might cost them on these narrow squeezes.
He's still playing with that blitz, but he needs some support behind it. He cannot clear out the entire side alone. Rotations are being made by the RC Retiros, but is it going to be enough in the end? That's the big question. P4 on the opposite side of the map is being waited on by one of the players of Rogue. Scanted is just holding the jump in here. Sees it come through. That's a free pickup. Doesn't even worry about it. And now Rise is trying to go for the quick push with the train. Finds one, but the instant heal comes back up. Stays alive just barely though. Kenta with a double kill to lock it all out. And that is the second round for Rogue.
Yeah, 4K on the round there for Kanto. He sort of found himself in a great position for the first, a ready position for the second, and the third was sort of the back end of a fight, and he was gifted with the remains to pick them up. 2 rounds in a row here for Rogue. Bit of a more cautious approach from Wolves. It almost paid off. They did find themselves better, but it's not that tricky to be better than a flawless statistically. So from that point onwards, what can they do here on the tertiary site? You are still attacking the best defensive team on a good defensive map.
Also, they managed to get more control as they actually get the main stairs this time.
Yeah,
just the door.
They got in the building.
They got in the building this time. Big change. But as we're headed towards the tertiary side, this is where Wolves need to be picking up these rounds. It was mentioned before, it's the best defensive team in league against the best attacking team in league. Playing on a very defensive side of map, so Rogue should have a slight favor. A 4-2 is probably where they would be content with.
10 seconds to go.
Potentially even a 5-1. And that means that Wolves is looking to find themselves 2, maybe 3 rounds if they're lucky, to find themselves at a good health. The first 2 rounds, though, weren't quite what they would like, so the tertiary sites is what they need to ensure themselves victories.
All right, Wolves. What's the change of pace here? It might be in the pockets of Bibu and the Amaru, seeing if they can try and maybe get a bit of a drive up against any potential player on the top floor with a bit of the pace here. They can't go get the breach immediately onto Pantry, so they're just going to pull off. There's a lot of work to do on this in terms of the verticality. You're trying to find these pockets of space. Deepek goes out, gets rid of that Selma, and goes right back in. Just a bit of cleaning.
It's good. You got to make sure that you take out utility when you can, even if it is on a muted wall. You never know when that mute jammer suddenly disappears by either a grenade that comes in from above or maybe a bit of a floor bang. And that way you don't have to worry about it later on. That's Bibu with a quick entry. Mowgli takes some damage in the meantime. P4 as well. The top floor surely under pressure as a rat beam comes through and Spoint will be caught off right after he finds the first kill.
Yeah, there it is. And P4 is able to push the balance into their favor. They've got a quick lockdown here. There's still a bit of fishing going on. They've got the C4 in pocket and the Pulse trying to lead the angle. There's the throw. And there's the pop. Mowgli was safe, tucked around the corner, had some safety. The second, though. Oh, it's the double! Oh, Shinker, I think they just rotated their way around. They lose the hard breach charges. They lose the body advantage from threading the needle. Leon able to get the double, and there's the third for his trouble.
They used one Nitro Cell to open up the floor to toss the Nitro Cell through into concrete, which you normally cannot reach from below. Incredible bit of adaptability right there. A bit of a flexibility, creativeness as well that we asked for before. So well done by Rogue, leaving only Bibu up now on the Amaru to see if he can go for that 1v3 clutch. But Rogue, they're all spread out again. They're not wanting to give any of these 1v1s. They're making sure that Bibu needs to be checking every single corner he can, and he did not check the door. Crying finds the kill, and that is going to be 3-0 for Rogue as they lock off that tertiary site.
I think that's the important part here, as you sort of mentioned. they're not handing any 1 versus 1s to Wolves' approach here. They're making sure that that game that Wolves is really good at, which is hunting, finding a player, shutting them out, pulling them off at sometimes a surprise angle and sometimes not, isn't one that can be played here. Sure, there was a bit of a back and forth during the approaches, but there's always a back and forth with Rogue. There's always another player. There's always another stretch. They're confident to sort of rotate into a firefight and sort of say, I'll help you, if the odds might to other people seem impossible.
And that's it. That's team play, right? You need to be working together. You need to have that cohesion. And that all comes down from communicating as well. And I've no clue if this is exactly how it goes with Rogue, right? But you often have where a player runs into a problem. It's like, I'm being pushed from stat tree and from games at the same time. Is there anybody that can help? It's like, oh yeah, I could come up the red stairs. And you start working together. You start piecing out these little angles side by side, and you find yourself some trade kills. And you find yourself in a, well, either buddy advantage or disadvantage, but at least you make the best out of it. And then the C4 comes in. Deepak sacrificing his C4 to open up the flooring to get a second one through for a double kill. That is just incredible communication from the two coming through. So well done, all we can say about that. And as they head on to round 4 now, of course they will be back to stat tree and the trophy area, because the other one is locked off. Aviator Games, it was the second side they went to. Frost making an appearance as well underneath the window, so if a quick push into the walk-in closet comes through, you might actually find yourself punished for it. You need to make sure everything is droned out.
10 seconds to insertion.
Okay, Wolves, tech timeout, refresh. 3 rounds have gone away from you. If you can try and pull back at least a couple, well, it's definitely a better turn of fate than it's been. It has. At points looked like it was getting better. A well-placed C4 is a trick that you've got to be aware of from what is maybe the other best team in the league, or definitely one of the contenders. I said that they sort of came into this with expectations they'll both be seeing each other at the major and both be waving the flag for the region. But here, I think Rogue have sort of come out a little bit swingy. And Wolves, they need to try and catch up and match the pace. P4's on a bit of an adventure deep underneath, seeing if they can maybe get a bit of a surprise strike, take some of the expectations, and instead of meeting Rogue head on with a lot of noise, play some of their tricks against them.
Took out the default cam though, so if someone has been cycling through the cams on Rogue, they should be aware of the fact that someone is or could be coming from the basement. And that's P4, you know, you might be trying to go in a bit sneaky, but they might be aware. This party's just hiding a memorial here. He's not looking to go for any aggressive fight, waiting to be droned out, waiting to be pushed or hear some noise. As P4 is deciding to go back down again, the E1D pops, and we'll have literally no information on any of the players currently because no one is rotating around.
Yeah, Rogue, they've sort of got themselves set up. You can see that Wolves are in a position where they're trying to apply the pressure onto the site itself. They're hoping P4 can get a loose catch on his own, and instead of focusing on these pinches that I've said have been very good from their guns, try and break and batter down the hatch. C4 does a lot there to the steps of Rise. Deepak, how close does he know he is? P4, same question. Seems like P4 just misses the slip, gets the first, the second is his as well. P4, an important double kill around on the Solarium stairs. Shinka gets the lockdown on Leon, who did get downed in and amongst that. There's the back end, and P4 gets spoiled for his trouble. As I said, they tried to change the pace, and it was a flawless one.
That's what they needed to get back into that game. A flawless round to really turn the tides. And P4 pushing through, just barely missing the catch on the first attempt onto Deepak, but at least locking off the kill, and the second, and the third. Really allows Wolves to snowball into that side, take it with both their hands. But they need to do that again. 2 rounds is what I want to see from them on this first half. 3, if they're feeling adventurous.
Well, are they?
We'll find out. We'll find out.
As weird as it is to say, I think missing the first kill here, if he'd have got the kill as he passed the door and then gone for the swing, I think it would have been trickier to get the follow-up. But he was already leading himself around the corner because he had to pick up the pieces of Deepak. So he was almost more ready for the second engagement there that followed. The call on Spoit coming around the back end, getting that as well. I mean, sometimes you just need to try something new, and it worked much better for them.
He was definitely ready because they knew someone was already on those staircases, and as soon as Deepak dies to someone that suddenly pops up out of a basement staircase,
5 seconds to go.
that is like a bit of panic coming through, and Kanto then hoping to salvage whatever it was, going for that swing, didn't know exactly how far up he was already. Loses his life as well. Aviator Games coming up next. Rogue is continuing their rotation, not sticking around the trophy stat tree to see if they can make a change. Quick couple of claymores being set up. You might wonder, why is that one? That's for the 90 window. They have it. Just to stop any jump back from there on if you put in pressure onto the main door. As we see, a very heavy presence coming down from Aviator, from the statuary and trophy area, or at least that side of the map. Kanto trying to hold off just so slightly because they are on the rappel, and they are already in the bathroom. That might just lose you. Your first sport taken down, and they knew someone was down those staircases. Kanto already rotated out, though, looking for safety.
P4 once again able to get himself in for the fight. As I said, they're going to try a slightly different tack here. Instead of the full sort of flood and get that pinch player, try and not dumb things down, but secret. Play those little corners, those little creeps, and put the pressure on a way where you finally strike isn't something they seem to have the full beat and read on here. Rogue, they've had to back off. Pulled themselves round to the opposite side of the site. We saw where Leon was holding down from the top of red last time when the push was sturdy. Here they've done the reverse. Wolves had the man advantage. Can they put the pressure now?
It's a big question. Can they turn this into a round win? A second one. Two players very aggressive around 90, but due to the fact that the window hadn't been opened up yet, they are free to fall back. Here when they pops, they get some information now, but well, there's nothing much they can do on the back of that. As the Selma start to pop, at least they open up some extra lines aside into the side. It's a missed opportunity from Rise. Could have actually found another kill. But Rogue escaped with yet one more life in their pockets.
They do still have a player underneath as well. Kanto, he's on a bit of an adventure. He wants to see if he can try and cut somebody off on the route. Chinka's watching the rotation round on the red stairs. Cryan tried to find a fight out the opposite, and Leon is actually going to be the one that leans around the corner. Just misses out on P4, who had the awareness and the sharpness, and over the past 2 rounds has done massive bits here for Wolves, but there's still a bit left. Kanto, he's caught out, rotating his way back round on the opposite side. Mowgli was ready, and it almost feels like they've been entirely surrounded here, and in practicality, they pretty much have. There's only one real missing corner for them to lock down. It's Study, but by that point, with what's open, do they really need it? Cryan tucked around into an open gun vault. This grenade, well, it's probably going to tuck itself right at his feet. Rolls a little bit too far. Cryan survives and takes out Rise. Can't quite get Mowgli on the second. Deepak suddenly all that's left in the clutch situation. 4 players ahead of them. One of them's going to stick the kit down. They're holding the tall angle. There's one on 90 as well, so we can't quite get the full rotate out. He's going to have to try and make a choice. P4 goes down, but not out. Wolves, 2 rounds.
Tactical timer does really help them there. They managed to instantly get 2 rounds in a row, and that is going to be the bare minimum they were looking for. So they've had that under the pockets now. See if they can expand into that 3-3 and find themselves with an even half, which was looking very unlikely after the first 3. And now Rogue have to make a decision. What site will we go to? Because everything is unlocked again. It seems like Aviator Games will be the site choice. And there is a way they could adapt to this, because they lost control of Trophy Statuary side of the map, the northern side of the map, quite quickly, which resulted in them being snowballed. So they need to be a bit more passive around there, possibly. Play it, be present, but not toss your life away. If Kanto stays active on the staircase, for example, Spoy can play around those doors with a little bit more safety. But as soon as he starts rotating the long way around, that's how he found himself caught.
Most of P4's kills have come over the past 2 rounds when he's picked up the Ash with the suppressor and decided to try and suppress anything loose on the side of Rogue. Can he be another lead in the entry statistic that started to turn into a little bit more of their favor here? It's the back of Wolves on the back of 2 rounds. An even half from where things were. Both teams getting a flawless in this opening half is kind of what you wanted. There still seems to be not quite an 100% back and forth. It's one team's in the driving seat. We're not having too many rounds that are coming really down to the wire here, which maybe we'll get in the second half.
Opens up the big wine barrel. Definitely made some noise, but pushing through in that basement. P4 has been finding success on these little off flanks, these little off angles where they don't expect them to come from. This time, though, they have closed off the door. They're not having it. They don't want them to run through freely. Bit of an adaptation from Rogue. As Kento makes his presence known, opens up on that window, lets them know, hey, I'm downstairs, come and get me. course, makes it more difficult playing that Vigil. He's able to be droned out, so really trying to play into the roam clear here from Wolves.
How long can they survive for? Tucked around in that situation, and how patient will P4 be? He has the idea of a player in this position. He's waiting to see if he can get a catch. Maybe they're hoping Cryan is forced out that way. Kanto gets caught out the spray round, and I'm assuming that was P4 in the fight. Spoit also suffers massively there from the run back, the route away, and you can see Wolves just kept applying the pressure. However, this, almost Kanto getting the surprise strike, pulls himself back, wanted to lean back in for the first time over the past couple of rounds. Rogue trying to find an immediate response, could not quite manage it, but 3 of them almost on the rotten end of a gunfight.
Bunch of drones have been taken out, though, from Wolves. Only 3 left currently in play they could use to try and figure out what these defenders are holding up on. Luckily, though, they're mostly coming back to the side, and Wolves have a lot of control. Basically, everything they wish for, but the players on the bottom floor, that is going to be the one big question mark they need to deal with sooner rather than later, or they completely bypass it. He'll be taken out. So hoping to open up onto the gunfall, but that won't work because of the mute jammers out there.
When will it go? There it will. Cryan ready with the C4. You talked about what they can control and what they didn't, and that was one of the important parts. 90. There's 2 stories of destruction as proven there by a C4. Another entry goes into the favor here of Rogue. Tucked in, Spoit tried to get the fadeaway kill. P4 smoked out and pushed out of the site itself. Tucked back round the corner. Cryan's tapping away. Kanto's there for a little bit of shoulder support. They're trying to expect where the drive of the site is coming from, because with 30 seconds, it's got to happen soon. Shinka, he's locked outside of the door itself. Deepek's in a position to maybe try and apply some pressure here, but he's held off by Bibu as the opener on Volt. Shinka's tucked round. Right towards the side of the strategy table, past the smoke canister most importantly. Gonna see if he can maybe stick it, waiting for the audio, but it's Spoit that gets it from underneath. The bottom floor is still theirs. Mowgli finds at least Spoit on the way through. P4's recollected the kit. Gonna tuck behind the strategy table once again. Deepek in a position here with a C4. He's gonna go for the firefight first. Goes for the default plant, swings around. The 360's his, but the plant is theirs. 3 versus 1. Mowgli on the door, gets the first, gets the second. He needs the ace to lock in this round here and bring an even half for the guns of Wolves. He does not know. Now he does. He sees the quick rotate, the pings of the player, the bullets that fly by, and it is a Mowgli ace!
Locks it off for a while. It seemed like Rogue was able to get back into it. Spoit from below. He had those default plans under control. He dies by Mowgli. That's the verticality gone. Deepek, unaware of where the plans exactly was going down in that moment in time, takes a bit of time, finds it eventually, but then it's Mowgli just popping up, finding them one by one as they slowly try and retake the site. And that's the 3-3 split. That's what Wolves hope for. And now to go over to the defense themselves. See if they can lock it off. They need 4 rounds. 3 for a point. But after the first 3 rounds, this is a very big turnaround from Wolves. A completely different kind of Wolves that we've seen play as well. This first one just sees the shoulder start shooting, instantly aware of the fact that the swing comes in from study, and knew the last one was rotating around as well. Good knowledge, good communication.
It was also a bit, obviously, Deepek, he knew the plant was going down, he expected the default.
Yeah, he didn't know exactly where.
If he'd have known where, he still had the C4 in pocket, it would have been the round, and that's the sort of, obviously, you know, it's the perspective of us where we can sort of see those things and see all the parts at play. And it's much trickier when you're buried inside, but so many of that round could have been decided by just a moment, and these are the sort of rounds that we wanted to see from this game between these 2 teams.
It is. We wanted to go down to the wire here between these 2, because this might be decided who is going to be taking that first place at the end of the stage. Of course, with BDS slightly in the mix as well.
With an even opening half, both teams still get to keep their record that they're both great at attacking and defending, but only one of them can leave with well, we are great today. Who's going to be able to do the distance, and can they do it in standard time? P4 takes a lot of damage. Leon takes even more. Mowgli able to take care of that first engagement, get Leon locked out. The Lion with 1 pulse is all they're going to be able to contribute to the game itself. A grenade attempt underneath, opening up the rotate on the door. There is a player not too far away, but look at this. Rogue's trying to go for the clarification with the kit far and cold outside.
Spot is close. He can just jump out the window, grab it, and then be back on his way. But they wanted to make sure that the ground they currently have is going to be actually clear as well before they do dedicate one of those players to pick up the diffuser. Before holding tight. Might actually run into Crying soon, and it seems like they might be setting up a bit of a crossfire network. Kenta coming in from Art Studio. Bebo going for the chase instantly. They are well aware of where these players are coming from.
That's it. There's pings coming through. There's the pre-fire and the take. Rise does get Kanto in the meantime. I think that was from Study above. Koryan's going to see if they can try and maybe get the player below the pop onto the Banshee. I don't know if they truly know about P4. Tucked round. Ooh, they might also find out soon about a player just above them. He's holding onto the angle. He's looking for the swing in the fight. P4 is still there, though, and Koryan definitely has some idea. He's cautious, but he's on his own. And there are body downs. They can't really set somebody to do it. Just drifts on by. It's really the test. Does he truly know where this player is? Is he sort of gut-checking by audio? He's pulled himself up to the top of red. It's 50 seconds. They got to find the fight. He's definitely trying to draw something. And there it is. The leg, the spray through. Both kind of suffer. The Finker puts a little bit more back into them.
They surely saw him earlier on and actually went for the peak as well, went for the swing. Grenade will find Rise, brings it back to a 3-3. Still worried about that one player that is playing downstairs. It isn't effective all 2-on-2 on side or 3-on-2 if they decide to all start pushing it. Before he's rotated all the way around, he's found himself back into the first floor and is now looking to go for a big flank towards the main stairs and maybe use that C4 to his advantage as well.
Pre-plays doesn't quite have the connection with the kit itself. They're trying to fight their way through the smoke, and that's a poorly timed Finker boost because that's just going to hurt you a little bit more. Has to take the spray in the fight itself. They're trying to force it, but Mowgli has different ideas. Mowgli has very different ideas. 3 versus 1. One dropped on the back stairs. There's barely any time. And Wolves take their first defense.
It was very scrappy though in the end there as Rogue was able to get back into it. We're able to get quite close to the site, but not quite in it. That's going to be that massive difference compared to what we've seen from Wolves in their last couple of attacking rounds. And as they find that, they take the lead. According to those standings, wouldn't be enough to put them up into the first place here today. But it's definitely going to be solidifying their spots into that top 4. And Rogue, of course, would be dropping down if that would be the case. And, you know, we've had that, I'm going to mention it again, we've had that interview with Spoid earlier on for the podcast that we do. And he did say, like, the goal is to get first place in EUL. Like, we were kind of bummed out when we won the major. We didn't get that first place in the regional league. And I'm like, that's a weird set of priorities. you win the major, but we didn't get that first place. Always looking for improvements. But for now, they're not really in a position to think about that unless they do find those 3 points here today against Wolves. Otherwise, it's going to be BDS that find themselves in that first spot. That first seat, back where they used to be.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse.
Okay, Wolves, you finally found yourself ahead with 4 rounds threaded in a row, Rogue. It's been a bit of a drought since the last one. But there's also been the turn of the half, and you still have your timeout as well. More than enough time. I have a feeling if this one goes away from you, though, there'll be a bit of a conversation before we find ourselves on map point. Trying to find this lead in here across the bow. Study. They're looking for these longer angles, and it's Mowgli that's looking for maybe a fight. Drifts himself closer and further away.
Quick shoulder peek just to get some extra information out. Spotted out that player, and that's a pixel. He's going to be holding that. Sees the head. Oh, just hits the shoulder of Kanto as he swings to the left. But that could have been a very early pickup there, a very unfortunate one. One that Kanto basically could do nothing about if that would be his head.
Yeah, that's one of those angles that you die from and you're frustrated for the rest of the round as you sit and watch cams for 2 minutes. Here, though, lucky to survive and, well, struggling to find the route through. Rogue, they're running the numbers, trying to find just anyone from Wolves that they might be able to formulate a play on, or even the site itself. If you get the fact that so many are currently in these situations that are making certain routes through impossible and impossible, you've got to come up with these. Secondary routes, plan Bs, a fight for the player. It's going to be covered by Crime, potentially rotating his way around on the opposite side towards Mudroom. They open it up and put a pinch on the one in China. That might be the next route through.
We said it enough about Rogue, where on the attack they usually did rely on Sport opening up, finding 2 or 3K to start it off. Well, that's the first that he finds.
You were saying.
That's how they found success usually, and he finds that first. Takes Mowgli off the board. He has been a very big impact for Wolves.
I mean, it was always going to be a sort of Mowgli versus Spoit fight that we wanted to see happen as much as we can. Mowgli has had a great game so far. He's going to have to sit out a little bit more of this round, but with a minute left, he's still got the rest of the Guns of Wolves behind him, and P4, as we said, also turned into a bit of a tour de force in the remaining rounds itself. Obviously, Mowgli being able to pull an ace is something that's definitely worked into their favor, too, with the energy that goes behind it, but Rogue, they've got to see if they can lock this down, shut it out, and suddenly they're in a much better mental position, and back tied up here. Spoit rotating all the way around to Study. He got the lead in on the opposite side of the map itself. Now they're going to fight their way over the top of red. P4 is close. We hear a drone rolling. Did it see him?
No, it didn't.
No, it didn't.
There's another player coming through. Will he find him? Is in big panic as he hopes to reload his SMG, but Deepik finds the kill. Brings the favor back to Rogue. But that's a big loss, 20 seconds. They need to start pushing the site right now. Are they capable of getting that diffuser down on the ground? How much utility is still available? No smoke canister, so this is going to be just a gunfight on gunfight experience.
Well, there's 2 on Solarium, and now there's 1 less, but it's the Rogue player gone. Deepik's going to see if he can stick it. Cryan is the only player technically left alive, but not very well. And there, time's out. I think he knew that the Wolves were circling, and they've now put 5 rounds in a row.
I think it's time for a bit of a tech timeout from Rogue. Have a bit of a chat. As you see, by the way, down there, this is going to be first place for Wolves. Round differential, of course, being part of that. And there you have it, 45 seconds. It is time to talk because you found 3 in a row and then you lost 5 in a row.
After their tech timeout as well.
After the tech timeout from your opponent. So, are you going to be able to turn that back around? Or is Wolves going to be able to have a bit of a chat with their coach as well and come back even swinging harder than they already were?
It's always that bit of a worry here with sort of these 2 teams hitting heads. Is Wolves, they sometimes thrive against teams like Rogue. They can put themselves in good positions. They're happy to go into gun games. They have that ability. As they sort of said on the desk, there's not many teams that remember how much of an FPS this game can be than Wolves, who have all the fangs and the bite of the aforementioned team name. You know, Rogue, sometimes when teams are more hefty, more slow, they'll find themselves at their pace. But if their pace gets a little bit shaken up, that's something that, you know, with these dynamics of these 2 teams, that Wolves sort of flourish around.
Yeah. I mean, morale is a really real thing, right? And if you lose 5 rounds in a row, it's never great for morale when that happens. So that's why we did have that tactical timeout. A quick chat to see if we can get everybody back onto the same direction. And see if they can progress into finding themselves some success again. And I'm just going to finish the point I was making before when Sport rudely interrupted me. Last stage, Rogue really relied on Spoit, for example, being able to find himself a double or triple entry. That's how they won a lot of their attacking rounds, just by opening up the ground. He hasn't been quite able to do that this stage, and that is maybe why we've seen a bit of a drop in their attacking win rate over the stage as well. But if you're looking at Spoit currently, and I'm not saying he's a bad player, he's not at all, he's a really good player. But he's not putting up the same numbers as he was last stage, right now, in this game.
It's old age. He's gone from 18.
He's getting older, right?
It's 18 and 3 months
He's won a
old.
major. It's all done. He's experienced now.
No, I mean, it's always that thing is...
Onto Heartbreach he goes.
Yeah, you find a landing in this game and you find your sort of pace on it. There are, you know, getting used to players, getting used to experiences. It's almost like the Yas effect that other teams have quoted, where Yas first sort of hit the boards, everyone was terrified of him, but then you learn to play against these players.
Yeah.
I suppose it's the same thing. Bolo was the same thing. Mowgli was the same thing as well. Mowgli had a lot of expectation, didn't quite hit it as good at points, and then has games like this where he's outstanding. It's finding that consistency is close to impossible, unfortunately.
I mean, there's so many thoughts coming out as well, right? Like, so many games that get played, and you find out what the weakness of set player is. Like, maybe he over-rotates. Maybe he doesn't check his corners when he's getting drone. Like, stuff like that. You just play into that. Try and find these little advantages that you can use against the team in general, or just players in particular if you want to isolate them. But we're playing in the living room, by the way. It's a sight that we do not often see. And as Shinka is trying to just slow them down as much as he can with these smoke canisters, it is at least keeping 2 players of Rogue at bay for now. It's going to be running out very soon. That's when he needs to start heading back. And that's also when there is a lot of time for Rogue to continue their attack.
Mowgli suffers a shoulder of damage first. They're sort of rebuffing the team further back. P4 and Shinka on the rotate, and Mowgli on that. BB with the second, straight over the top there, tucked onto the back of the shield. He's been a bit quieter this game, but he hasn't really need to be as loud as the rest of his team are allowing him to be. Spoit suddenly a bit alone on this position. He's going to see if he can try and get himself to some semblance of safety, but you've got to look at what's been taken out of them. Hard breach. Now they're in a trickier situation, and they're going to have to try and work out if they can just strong-arm themselves onto what is maybe the most locked site. Mowgli with one more. He's replaced Bibu behind the shield.
I mean, they did try and take care of that shield earlier on. You saw it Spoit, he's tossed in a Gone 6, but caught off or didn't quite connect. And I mean, the shield has those little vision holes in him nowadays, so it can be perfectly used like you saw right there by Mowgli. That leaves Deepak and Kanto in a 2v5 situation. It's not looking very likely that they could win it, but Deepak finds himself inside. He's going to get pre-fired. He's going to be able to find a kill. No, he will not. It's only up to Kanto now. A bit of a pre-fire coming through. Finds one, but needs 4 more within 7 seconds. That means this round is over. That means it is going to be match point for Wolves, and not just 1, but 3, Emmy.
6 rounds in a row. It's hard to argue with, and even harder to play against. Wolves, they've really sort of reset the mental after the opening 3 here, when Rogue seemed to be in such a good stead. The fact that this game opened with a flawless Rogue round, and then since then it's just drifted further and further away, sort of shows the face of it. They're back to AVG, back to this first site, and a site where it became a little bit to the wire at points.
It did come to the wire, here and there. But Wolves, they have been able to just play a bit freely here. They haven't really been punished for the setups that they were holding. And Rogue has been attacking quite one-dimensional. If I have to tell you about the big difference between these two teams is when Wolves started struggling onto the attack, you know, they used to be attacking from one angle as well, and they just sent P4 into a different angle. So if you can find an opening, you start using it. You start putting your fingers in between to try and wedge it into a bit of a bigger opening. And that's how they find a bit of success. They found those entries time and time and time again. Rogue all seem to be coming from the same side to some extent, or at least no impact is being made elsewhere. And Wolves, they can just all aim towards the same direction, not have to worry about anything in their backs. They're able to lock it off as a result. Perhaps a little bit of a lack of flexibility on the Rogue attack. Drone's coming out, denying some of the utility. People has been spotted out, but pretended he was going up to the top floor before he decided to stick around just a little bit longer. Drone will be taken care of now, so no need to worry about that Twitch drone anymore.
There's a C4 ready to go. P4 wants somebody closer to this window. Nobody is there as of yet. This is actually where things, I think, started to go away from them the first time round here. The fight onto this window, the kit got dropped cold, and Rogue aren't giving them that satisfaction as of yet. Spray through, a pull back, and well, I think Wolves have learned the idea that they're being slower and steadier. There is somebody ready for that. Cry and tucked inside Mudroom on the window. Hoped for the drop to happen his way, and it did. Hoped to maybe get a second.
It's what you needed to do, right? You need to punish these players from Wolves as they are so flexible. They are running around. They're rotating from time to time as well. And if you manage to catch them whilst they are at their most vulnerable, which is when they're, you know, either jumping down a skylight or when they're running without checking the corners, you find yourselves with these free engagements where there's basically no risk of you losing your life. And if you then manage to put the man count into your favor, you might be able to wedge that into something bigger. But you need to continue up this pace right now, and you need to make sure you do not get stuck on the actual side itself, which is what we have seen before.
Now the pressure, they're going to see if they can try and get the side itself cracked open. They found themselves on the wrong end of this last time round and couldn't quite get the lock in. It was a massive fight back, obviously, and gonna be the tether and the thread this time round. Minute on, They have the first body. They still have some structural work to do and some control to get on the opposite stair set, which is where they're angling up now. You can see they want to try and drone and push their way up. Spoit's got the cutoff here onto the vault, hoping somebody swings into him as the rest of the pressure starts to come across Rise inside Study. He's caught out on a drone, drifting himself to what is slightly safer, but still likely about to be attacked by Cryan.
As I said, I need to be attacking from multiple different angles at the same time. You cannot afford to all be walking through that same door. The thing is, though, there's still 2 players down below. P4 has a C4, is about to use it, might catch Spoit as a result. No, Rise is going to be coming in quite close, finds him into the back of it, and that is going to be a kill. It brings it back to a 4-4, spots another player on the top of red, knows there's going to be 2 there. P4 locks one off.
20 seconds now. Leon's inside the site with the kit, but he doesn't feel comfortable enough to stick it, and it makes sense. They're rotating their way background on the main stairs on the opposite side. The fight is onto the gun vault, and it's theirs. There's Deepak over the top for a double. Watching the stair set itself. Shinka inside. All that's left. The kit should get locked in here, tucked behind the default plant spot. There's the reveal on one. And the reveal on the player itself, the second outside far onto the balcony, and now with the rotate round onto red stairs, Rogue is playing this cautiously. They've lost clutches on this site before, and, well, they're not going to be the victim of another. Rogue, their first round in 6. They need 2 more to get to OT.
Warming up their hands, they're getting ready for it. They need to find a couple more. You mentioned it. They need to find themselves a way to OT. Because 4 points is what they need to be completely locked in. They cannot get that today, but if they at least find 1, or if they find 2, that's going to be putting them a whole way there. Aviator Games up next. Again, Wolves rerunning it. It was just barely that they've lost it. They managed to muscle themselves through the site
To locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
and open that one up completely. Small adaptations could be the difference maker here. Maybe holding on a little bit longer onto that top floor. Not rotating down if you're unsure if it's going to be clear, because that just worked out for Rogue. They will be aware of that now on Wolves' side. So a rotation similar to that, I doubt we'll see it.
Rogue, it's got to be flawless from here on out. It's close to a fight there, but that's that scrappiness. And to be fair, I mean, they got a 3 on the back end of the last half. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to do the same thing here. Just need another bit of a lead in. The first take was great. It was the first time it felt like they'd got a true handle on the opening game instead of it being a very scrappy back and forth as it had been previously. The take there, the hop over, the force on the pressure of the players of Wolves. They know the rotations. They know how they like to move. And we're more than happy to catch them as they drop down to the bottom of the gantry.
Preparing themselves, setting up a bit of a heavier hole. The shield and some ADSs just to make sure the player can stick around on Solarium just a little bit longer. Mentioned this before. That might be the change that they make just to hold on to that site. You see ADSs on the other side as well. Mew Gemmers. They're really leaning into this now. They want to hold on to North as Rogue is coming in for the attack. Will they realize this? Are they walking right into the traps? That's going to be the big question. This point comes in first. He needs to make these entries happen. We talked about it before. That is when they found success.
The ADS is going to catch off whatever is first thrown around this corner. Leon's going to see if he can try and burn it out with the flashes tucked around the corner. The first gets caught out. The second will get the shield. They're going to swing behind it, find the player, but the C4 pops off from P4. Split second too late to save Bibu out, who was looking for the fight onto the window. It's a very important kill to take back, but still, they've got a bit of ground here. Mowgli, oh, he's looking for a retake. Almost gets all of Kanto there, who's just sort of tucked himself around into the corner.
They just need to get out of here now on Rogue. They realize that it's not going to be safe yet. They just lost one player, 4-1 though. As Crown is coming around the corner, checking that bottom floor, sees that barricade, so probably thinks Memorial will be clear. There's going to be a player out there, but not going to be any direct threat. But they could be rotating themselves back up on Solarium stairs, and that is when it becomes problematic. Mowgli, maybe going for the chase into Cryan, actually. No, he's going back, sorry, no worries.
Yeah, pulled himself back round. They're not going to sit and see how much devastation can be dropped onto them. There's still the holds coming through and still the pressure coming across the opposite side. We've got to think how much time and where they're attacking and what they've been able to do at this point before Leon almost caught out there. This time they've got the backup hard destruction. They're not just sort of single dipping it onto the fight, and Deepak's going to start to stretch that on the other side of the site itself. That was too high to pop. The second one should be able to pop off maybe as Leon's putting the pressure here on towards the gun vault.
Hoping to open up, but again, the Mew Jammer, Sakanto needing to use a grenade to get rid of them. Comes through, gets the Mew Jammer, that means the opening will be made. Finds wall P4, so that is going to be at least bring the favor back in them. Not anymore. Mowgli finds one. Deepak finds another kill, and that brings it to a 2 and 3. Wolves again on the back foot.
All traded across the board here, but you're looking at 20 seconds. That ominous sixth man keeps ticking, and Rise is holding onto the angle. They're going to see if they can slip themselves behind the default plant spot. The pre-fire comes against them, just sort of making the statement and hoping they come in on the back of it. The smoke cover. They're behind the strategy table. They opted the gamble there onto the plant itself. Shinka's trying to go for the retake round onto the opposite side. They can't make the connection with any of these remaining players. One inside study. And now, only one left. They take the first, but with one on the strategy table. There's the second, downed. They just need to get this. The last player, the last fight, both of them on a flicker, a sliver of health over the bow. Red, 30 seconds. Shinka with the wider swing. He's going to wait for the audio here. They're not entirely sure where the player is. They're not entirely sure on the angle they're going to go with. Cryan tucks himself in close, but it's Shinka that has the final connection, and look at P4's face. He's in as much disbelief as we are. The day is Wolves.
I was going to say Shinka had the advantage there because he was defusing, but he knew exactly where he had to be coming from. Went for that quick high fire rate SMG burst, finds that kill. Mowgli's returning the favor, showing the rogue jersey. No. Not today. And Bibu's running to the major.
Run to the major. First place on the board secured. Rogue. Unfortunately, they are the team with the tails behind legs today, as an alpha is proven, but it was a performance that I think still showed the sparks of both these teams' possibility and why we're still likely to see both at the major.
Yeah, for sure. Both these teams, of course, were looking likely like they would make it. If they would win today, they would solidify their chances almost 100%. But for now, Rogue will have to hold off. There's still 2 more playdays for them to get 3 points, so it should be doable for them. No worries for the fans back at home. I say now before I curse them. Who knows? It is going to be Wolves that gets the full victory. That is going to be 3 points. And let's toss it over to the desk to break this down further.